Hello, English 200 students. In this video, we will look at the research paper rough draft assignment, which is due at the end of Module 5. Now, before I begin, I strongly suggest that you revisit the final research paper essay assignment sheet and video, because everything that is true there, with a little caveat, is true for your rough draft. One little exception is that, again, this is a rough draft. So you aren't expected to have the entire research paper essay in nice, perfectly revised, perfectly formatted condition or form yet. This is just to get you started. This is your first attempt to bring everything we've been doing together. Also keep in mind that this course runs for 7 modules, and your rough draft isn't due till the end of Module 5. That means that you will still have Modules 6 and 7 to finish writing, to make those revisions and edits, to get feedback, both from your instructor and peers, all of that to enhance the quality of your final product. So this is just that rough draft. Now, your rough draft should be about 8 to 10 pages long. And that is if you are submitting as much as you can, which is what we recommend. This does not include the APA title page and references list, which would bring the total about 10 to 12 pages. Again, it also must be a Word document, a .docx, or a PDF. And we have those resources, how to format an APA 7 style, and the title page and references that you've seen before. So what are we doing? What's that big picture? Well, you're submitting your rough draft, like I said. You've already done several parts of your research paper already. So don't think that you are just looking at a blank page. You already have a lot of feedback and a lot of work finished. So the first task will be to kind of bring it all together. Look at that feedback that you've received. So for example, especially on the literature review, maybe on your references list, and make any of those changes as needed. This makes your job easier in the future because you'll have, less to edit or less feedback to apply, less corrections to make because you're diligent about looking at your feedback. The minimum is that your rough draft should be at least 8 pages. So that's the minimum. This will still give you about 2 pages more to work with. But we don't want to see less than this because that would put you at a severe disadvantage as we move into the end of this course. All right, so let's talk about, what are these different parts? What does your research paper look like? Again, if you've watched that research essay assignment sheet, you'll have a better idea, so I want to refer to that. But you first need to have an introduction. So like we talked about, this is your research proposal in a nutshell. There are some things you would want to remove. There are some things you want to add, like your thesis. But a lot of what you have in your research proposal can become or will become your introduction. Next is the research process. And this one is pretty simple. And again, refer to that final research paper video to learn more about what to do here. But in effect, this research process walks your reader through the steps you took to find sources, to evaluate those sources, to utilize those sources. So it's kind of your own research methods, but without all of the complications that those more advanced forms of methods bring. After your research process is your literature review. And you'll see we said revised, but you've already written this. So pay careful attention to the feedback, make those changes as needed, and then you can go ahead and stick the literature review in your paper. Finally, we have your analysis. This is kind of the big idea. This is your chance to use the sources that you found and to demonstrate that thesis that you have developed. So another way to think of it is you spent all this time building up your introduction. You've given us that background and that context. You've explained what your topic is. You've given us your research questions and your thesis. Then you've talked about The research process. How did you find these sources? How did you evaluate them? You've reviewed the sources you found. You have synthesized them, looked at the themes. All of this work builds up to something, and that is your analysis. I cannot stress it enough, so I will stress it again. Please, please, please watch the final research paper video and review that assignment sheet carefully, because you have 3 options for analysis, and you only need to do one of those 3. It is up to you. It is your choice. So pay special attention to know what it is asking of you within this section. And in the final section, a conclusion, where you wrap everything up, you restate your thesis, you answer the question, did you demonstrate your thesis? What more needs to be done? And that's it. As we said, the more you submit at this stage, the more feedback you can gain for revision. So in a way, this is helpful for you. The more work you do, the better quality your final product will be. When it comes to AI, like many of the assignments, you are not permitted to use AI to write your research paper. That would be a form of plagiarism because we are asking you to write it, not somebody else. So please review the AI statement for all of the other assignments. For example, if you did use AI to help you develop themes in your literature review, make sure that you differentiated between what was acceptable and what was unacceptable in those situations. I do want to point out here, we've mentioned it a few other times within the sheets, but I haven't brought it up in the videos, is that Grammarly continues to add more and more AI features into their software. And we are continuously running into issues where the Turnitin detectors are flagging Grammarly revisions as AI-generated content. So to protect yourself from this, I strongly recommend against using Grammarly. The features that are in Microsoft Word are absolutely fine to catch, those small mistakes, spelling, grammar, punctuation, anything like that can be caught with Microsoft Word. So use that instead. This is a great time, if you have not done so yet, to meet with a writing tutor. They are professionals at this. They have advanced degrees. They know writing through and through. So if you are really struggling with putting it all together and getting going on your rough draft, I recommend meeting with a writing tutor. We still also have those resources for how to format an APA style. So use these resources to your advantage. Now here's that checklist. Again, just for you, going through what all you need to do. And then we have our rubric. And the text is kind of small here. It'll be bigger in Canvas. But I would strongly recommend that you carefully read through the criteria, because this rubric is structured a little differently. The criteria is where we expect you to be. And then you'll notice you either get full credit, half credit, or we don't see that criteria or you didn't submit. So again, we're kind of taking it easy. We're just looking at, are you headed in the right direction? Or are there some issues that are emerging? So pay careful attention, especially to these criteria, just to make sure that you have everything that you need. And that is it. This is the big final hump. The next 2 weeks are going to be a lot easier for you. You will engage in a peer review on the discussion forums, so you can get some peer feedback as well. And ideally, that means that if you have used the feedback from your instructor, you get that feedback from your peers, and met with a writing tutor, you will have lots to work with in the next or remaining 2 weeks by the end of Module 5, by the time you submit this, to have the best quality research paper you can.